Meteorologist Brett Adair, who's following those storms into north central parts of Alabama. We also have our field crews on the ground up in the Twin Cities, which has now been added onto a blizzard warning. That's where we find Ben McMillan. And you've added a couple more layers and cold weather accessories since the last time we talked about it as well. And then we're going to watch as these powerful winds and heavy snowfall rates get up into the Twin Cities by tonight across northern parts of Wisconsin as well. And notice by tonight into the day tomorrow how much more of a concern icing becomes. We could be talking a tenth to a quarter of an inch or more in Wisconsin. And then for Michigan, a half of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, not out of the question. All of that spanning into the north. So some good ideas, some good information, and what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, pregnancy brain is really killing me right now. When you good advice, that's what it's called.
Okay.
If you're within this tornado watch, any of these yellow shaded counties, and you've got beautifully sunny skies, that is not an indication that you're in the clear. That is an indication that your atmosphere is destabilizing. So if this line is headed your way and you've got sunshine within this tornado watch, as David was talking about, that could actually add to the intensity of those storms. But right now, what's adding to the instability and the intensity is lots and lots of moisture, and that's leading us to a threat of flash flooding. We have flash flood watches in green. We've got flash flood warnings near New Orleans and Tupelo, where we've seen reports of upwards of 3 to 5 inches of rainfall in just a couple of hours. As we watch that line get into that area of high instability with that shear within the atmosphere, that veering with height or clockwise flow, we're talking about the threat of those storms regaining in energy. So this big line is going to continue to be a monster throughout the daytime today, from New Orleans up to Montgomery and up towards Birmingham, even into Nashville and Lexington. We're expecting some heavy rainfall as well as some gusty winds. This threat continues tomorrow. We have a slight risk of severe storms through Virginia, the Carolinas, down into Georgia, and now more. It is responding, and it's going to continue, as David said, to respond to more of that moist, unstable environment within this enhanced risk. That's where we have the tornado watch until 7 o'clock tonight. We also have a widespread flash flood watch with embedded flash flood warnings as deep Gulf moisture continues to push in from the south. That line along the cold front will work its way through the state of Alabama into this afternoon, and tonight will continue feeding those storms from the Gulf Coast of Florida through parts of western Georgia and into the Carolinas into the afternoon hours of Sunday as well. We continue our multi-day, multi-faceted thunderstorms, get some cooler air in there too, and that has kind of undercut things. So that's awesome to be able to talk about weakening cells, not as many warnings out there as far as severe weather is concerned. That's a little bit more volatile. That's a little bit more localized than the broader threat to the north of the blizzard-like conditions. You can see the feed on your screen right there. We've got field crews on the ground in the Twin Cities area near Bloomington, Minnesota. Ben McMillan joined by Martin Herrera and their also chase partner Parker. They're going to be keeping a good eye on those storms from the ground as we talk about not only some of the heaviest snowfall, which the Twin Cities have now been added into that blizzard warning, but also the gusty winds upwards of 40 to 50 miles per hour coming out of that. We also have expanding winter storm warnings for northern parts of Wisconsin and into Michigan. This isn't just about the snowfall, although that will be plentiful. Anything in purple, we're talking 6 inches or more. Anything up into the brighter pinks, we could be talking 12 inches or more. These numbers are from the National Weather Service. This is what their thinking is. Remember, we've got several different computer models which all handle this differently. The colors are our in-house computer model, and that is their thinking. So we're kind of taking it all in and saying, all right, here's what's most likely to happen. We've got the northerly winds, the cold air on the backside of this through Iowa and Minnesota today. That's all going to work its way gradually to the east and northeast and bring a little bit more warm air with it. So whereas we have some of the heavier snowfall to the north, as that warm air starts to slide in from the south, we'll see it changing the temperature profile of the depth of the atmosphere. And that could switch some of that snow over over to some pretty serious icing concerns. Sleet and freezing rain across southern Wisconsin, as much as 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch. But here is where we have the greatest concern. Across the heart of lower Michigan, 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, fairly widespread. Some spots as much as 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. If you see that alongside of heavy wet snow or even by itself, it's enough to weigh down and snap power lines as well as tree limbs, and that could cause some very catastrophic outcomes for power systems across the upper Midwest. Blizzard warning now for the Twin Cities into Sunday. We could be talking 1 to 2 inches of snowfall per hour. It's going to be falling fast. Same goes for Green Bay, Wisconsin. Plus, in addition to up to 6 to 12 inches of snow, you could see 1/10 or more of an inch of icing. We'll see that working its all the way over to Saginaw, Michigan, up to 1/2 an inch of icing there. Gusty winds upwards of 50 miles per hour. Just goes to show you how they're in yellow, taking us until 7 o'clock tonight. We've got that powerful line, as David has been highlighting, working from west to east. We talked about the flash flood warnings around the New Orleans area up into the eastern coast of Lake Pontchartrain, the Gulf Coast of Mississippi as well, up towards Tupelo with that widespread watch in green. A lot of moisture pouring in off of the Gulf. We're kind of seeing a back off in those southerly winds. They're not as intense right now. We don't have a very powerful, what's known as a low-level jet. We talk about the jet stream, the very powerful winds aloft, but sometimes you can get these powerful channels of air closer to the surface and in the lower levels, and those take all of that Gulf moisture and they just dump it right into a system like this. So right now we've got that lull out there and we've got that low-level jet kind of backing off a bit, but it can and it likely will reinvigorate this afternoon within that enhanced risk of severe storms. We continue with that, a 10% risk of tornadic activity. Winds are primary threat. We've already seen a lot of wind damage today across eastern Mississippi and Louisiana, and of course all of this, another one, continues to send waves of energy across pretty much the exact same region we saw storms yesterday. We're going to see a multi-day threat headed into the weekend.
Yeah, and so some of these areas, maybe you're still recovering from some of the wind damage that took place. It looks like there could be more of those strong storms impacting you throughout the weekend.
A lot of cleanup from the wind damage and all of the hail yesterday. So much cooler air starting to filter into northern parts of the region, dropping temperatures by as much as 10 to 25 degrees. But it's this big temperature difference that's going to set us up over the next couple of days and lead us to more chances at some strong storms. I mean, 86 in Richmond, 49 in Presque Isle.
Yeah, so the difference is huge, and that's because that's where the frontal boundary is going to be setting up right around there. We'll have energy moving right along that frontal boundary. So not everybody's going to be dealing with thunderstorm chances, but the areas that do get the active weather, it could be on the strong side.
It's going to be cloudy. It's going to be rainy in southern parts of the region. Everyone's going to stay on the breezy side. And we're talking about some very strong winds setting up into northern parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So just want to give you guys a quick heads up. Feels weird to be talking about so many storm chances, and then also to talk about high fire danger and red flag warnings. A very dry air mass setting up over the northeastern states in our country, and that's going to give us a threat during the day today.
Yeah, and very strong winds as well. So if you're going to be doing any outdoor activities, stay away from open flames or anything that creates sparks, because that fire weather risk will be there.
But gratefully, what's going to help out and get rid of that fire danger tomorrow will be a surge of moisture coming in from the south. Unfortunately, that's going hand in hand with tomorrow's severe storm potential.
Yeah, we've got severe storms setting up from Ohio all the way into Pennsylvania. You can see even that marginal risk extends farther to the east and farther to the south.
And Pittsburgh, your forecast is likely to stay rainy through the weekend and into early next week. I mean, we really don't have much relief in sight because the pattern is going to stay stagnant and just wave after wave after wave coming through. So we want to highlight those waves and give you a look at your forecast. Today is going to be our driest day. So if you got something to do outside, sneak it in today if at all possible, because by Saturday morning, we're already starting to talk about that next storm system building in from the west. And you'll notice this line right here, that's just going to hover. We're going to see a front stalling out. We're going to see quick waves, quick low pressure centers just kind of flying through it. And that's going to give us a chance at a few showers and isolated thunderstorms into the morning. North of that front, we're talking lows in the 30s and 40s, even 26 in Presque Isle. South of that front, 50s and 60s to start off the daytime. We'll continue with the surge of warm, moist air from the south, that cold front working its way east and southeast, producing some strong storms capable of large hail and damaging winds. Can never rule out an isolated spin up. And that's why we we have this slight risk of severe weather, including Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, into parts of Maryland and West Virginia, a marginal risk stretching a bit farther south from there as well. We're going to see the warmest temperatures, possibly even record-setting across parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland. Low 90s possible. A very hot and muggy day with strong storms in the forecast. But from 92 in D.C. to 62 in New York. On the cold side of the front, you'll be lucky to hit 60 degrees. That is the clash of those air masses. That is the change that's going to help give us that energy along the front to pop up some strong storms. We'll maintain the storm potential along the front Saturday night into Sunday morning. South of that drying out, and northern parts of the region, high pressure keeping you clear. But Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, into Connecticut and Rhode Island, and even into parts of Maryland, it looks like you're going to be soggy on Sunday morning, and then the next wave comes in on Sunday afternoon. And you can guess what I'm going to say next. Chance at a couple of strong thunderstorms, just a marginal risk for Sunday, but we're going to be watching West Virginia closely for the threat of heavy rainfall, and that could lead to some isolated flooding. That's where we've got the warmest temperatures once again on Sunday, mid to upper 80s in the south. A little bit warmer, a lot more 60s popping up with some. The new director of the National Hurricane Center yesterday speaking with our own John Van Pelt at the Hurricane Awareness Tour. And before they made their way to U.S. cities, they also did a tour around the Caribbean to help those guys get prepared. And the one big thing that's been sticking out to them over the Caribbean Awareness Tour and the one here in the U.S. is so many people are still trying to clean up from last year's hurricane season that this year they also have to worry about, okay, I don't just have to get my house back together. I have to think 3 steps ahead should this happen again.
Yeah, and hurricane season is just coming at us so fast. We want it to slow down. But you can see we're already talking about the tropics, and we're looking here in the Pacific, Eastern Pacific, where we do have Tropical Depression 1E with wind speeds of 35 miles per hour. Now, we are seeing a cluster of thunderstorms there. Not a whole lot of organization, but it does look like it could be moving into a less favorable environment, which is also good news.
Absolutely. So this one isn't going to be a tropical depression for much longer. This isn't a blockbuster, but it's just one more reminder, like you said, it is coming at us fast. The
Too fast. Slow down. Hurricane season.
Tell me about it. The Eastern Pacific season starts May 15th officially, the Atlantic season on June 1st, and we're going to be following it every step of the way along with you. So keep it here with us. Plus, we've got some stuff to talk about on the mainland when it gets way into southern Florida. We're going to be watching this one closely through the weekend and into early next week because we're not talking about a big change in pattern. We've got a low pressure center that's going to develop over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and with a high hanging out over the Atlantic, that just allows for a channel of available moisture to funnel into Florida. Then we take things down to the surface, and we've got a trough of low pressure that's just going to meander its way onshore, and that's going to keep a lot of lift and energy around. We've got copious amounts of moisture. You've got that source of lift. Watch what happens as we get through Sunday. You'll start to see an area of low pressure coming in and increased shower and thunderstorm chances, especially for the afternoon hours when daytime heating kind of bumps things up. So we're talking about widespread 2 to 4 inch totals, isolated spots easily at 3 to 6. But as we know, in southern Florida, when a front like this stalls out over several days, you could really start talking about some increased flooding risks. So we're going to be following that starting this weekend, lasting us into early next week. The one benefit, we need the moisture. Severe drought continues in Miami, and we're going to spread across the state of Florida as we stick through early next week too. So not a huge change in pattern anticipated for Florida as we get into the weekend and early next week. And frankly, not much of the rest of the southeast is going to see a change in pattern for the same time frame. And that means more high temperatures, setting records, more extreme heat and humidity across a good chunk of the country.
Absolutely. Those well above normal conditions will continue. We have Naples, Florida from Thursday reaching 92 degrees. That tied a record of 92 degrees.
And they could easily do it again today. They've set multiple records in Naples so far this month. We could be setting records across the region. 94 in Columbia, 93 today in Savannah, 90 in Jackson. And as we just get warmer from here, you can see how much of the south central and southeastern U.S. are talking about that high heat, not just for your Friday, but into your Saturday and Sunday. Each one of these red and pink dots could set a record high the next few afternoons.
That's a lot of dots.
That is a lot of dots. And this is the conservative estimate. This is just the big cities. We're talking about lots of upper 80s and lots of lower 90s. So naturally, if you want to cool off, you head to South Florida, because that's going to be the only spot that is going to see a chance at cooler air because of all of the moisture that's coming in.
Yeah, the way things are setting up for this weekend, that tropical moisture, it's going to continue to stream out of the south and southeast and really impact Florida, especially southern Florida. High humidity, high dew points, heavy rain potential, all going to be there.
And then we see this trough at the surface just kind of hang out. It stalls out. It sticks with us Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Miami, Wednesday, Thursday. There really isn't going to be an end in sight to those rain chances.
You know, if you like consistency, this is your forecast right here.
There you go.
We got more of the same each and every day. Not much fluctuation with those low temperatures or the high temperatures or the storm chances.
The problem is when you see this much rain over that many days, we're talking about a threat of flooding, as we could see isolated spots upwards of 3 to 6 inches. So we're going to be following that and the high heat across the southeast. We want to dive in, go day by day. Things about it is you're going into a holiday weekend. You have the big plans for mom, and then you start talking about thunderstorm chances Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's the uncool part.
Yeah, it's going to be a very consistent forecast. Those storm chances are going to last in the same areas for several days in a row, so you might get some severe damage from those storms maybe on Saturday, and then on Sunday when you're trying to clean up, you might have some more storms on the way.
So let's talk about how all of this is going to, and it's just all going to be about this stalled out front. You see wave after wave over the same spots.
Yeah, so it's going to be like we were talking about, the similar pattern each day. We're going to have to watch these showers and thunderstorms. Now tomorrow, that severe weather risk, it's going to be more for the eastern part of the country. So let's show you.
But I don't think we're going to get the heat and energy to kick those off widespread. We're still going to see thunderstorms, and they're still going to maintain their trajectory across this front and north of it across northern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and Michigan as we head through the afternoon and evening hours today. This is all going to build east into Saturday morning. No change in the forecast. And with a cool day today and more clear and calm conditions in northern parts of the region overnight, a lot of spots, Bemidji, Rhinelander, Sault Ste. Marie, talking about dropping back to that freezing mark once again. You got to go into southern Iowa to see 40s and 50s for lows tomorrow morning. That front really doesn't go anywhere into the daytime on Saturday. Partly to mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers, and thunderstorms. We could see enough heat here to keep a few of them strong across the state of Iowa into southern Wisconsin and southern Michigan. We do have a slight risk we're going to be talking a lot about in our top weather stories into the Ohio Valley, so stay tuned for more details on that outside of the upper Midwest. We've got some heat, more 70s for southern Iowa, but lots of 50s and 60s where the cloud cover and rain just won't let go. But if you got some sun in the north, you're going to rebound into the low to mid 60s, so looks like an awesome day in Bemidji on Saturday. Sunday, more of the same. That system just won't leave. It's going to keep us cloudy. It's going to keep us rainy, not just on Sunday morning, but a few showers across Iowa into Sunday afternoon. Hopefully by Sunday night, we'll start to clear things out a bit. We'll see quieter conditions for early next week, but then more storm chances start to return by the middle and the end of next week. And as we start to talk about a little bit more sunshine in the forecast and that low pressure system losing its hold into the later hours of Sunday, a lot more highs bumping up into the 70s just in time for Mother's Day. Mentioned that big trough of low pressure. That's not just allowing for more energy to fuel those severe storms into the west central U.S. We're also talking about some heavy rainfall that's been working its way across lower elevations in Idaho and Montana, with flooding threat between that and the snowmelt still a huge problem. And then up into the 8,000, 8,500 foot plus range, Jackson around you in the highest peaks, we've got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings hanging on. So this is a very broad, widespread system that's going to continue to bring mountain snow through the rest of our weekend and a good solid batch of rain across Nevada into Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. And because that big trough of low pressure isn't going anywhere, not only are we talking about continued activity there, but with this front just draped across the heart part of the country, we're not expecting much change in our forecast from southeastern Wyoming and Nebraska across the heartland. And now, as we get into Saturday and Sunday, we're going to become more concerned with the eastern edge of this storm system as they talk about a surge of warmth and moisture coming in from the south. So we're going to add on a slight risk of severe storms across parts of the Ohio Valley and north of there on Saturday. And then we do it all over again on Sunday. More on this 2 to 3 day forecast coming up.
Well, it is that time of the year. We're talking about hurricane season. The Atlantic season does begin on June 1st. And yesterday, we had our very own John Van Pelt. He was out there at the Hurricane Awareness Tour in Montgomery, Alabama. And it looked like he was having a good time, but it was also giving out some great information.
Yeah, we spoke with so many officials from the National Hurricane Center, NOAA, and the National Weather Service, as well as FEMA and other local organizations, because it really is a team effort between you, all of them, and all of us, trying to get the information out so we can do things as efficiently as possible. If last season taught us anything, it's that you need to be ready to go at the drop of a hat and have that plan in place. And now is the time to do it.
Absolutely. Like we said, it's coming up before you know it. It's moving very quickly as we head towards the season. And typically the beginning of the season is not as active as it is in the middle of the season. But nonetheless, we're still talking about the tropics today. We want to show you this.
All right. So bear with me. Let's talk about how this thunderstorm threat is shaping up. You still have an area of low pressure right here. We're just not talking about the heat and humidity to go into it like we'll see today. But if you stretch south of that into the afternoon hours of Saturday, still a few strong storms with a trough and a dry line into the panhandle. And then we start to see those waves of energy shifting east along the front that's expected to stall out across Iowa, Missouri, and right into the Ohio Valley. And tomorrow, with a good batch of heat and instability and moisture coming into parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Ohio, that's going to give us a slight risk of severe weather here. So a strong southerly wind continues to pump in that moisture, and that's going to help destabilize the atmosphere. We're very unstable. We've got a lot of moisture in the central U.S., but we just don't have the energy and the lift to get things going there. So we're highlighting this marginal risk of severe weather and the slight risk right along this front as we head into the day on Saturday. You can see that front really not doing a whole lot in the morning, but then those stronger storms developing this afternoon. It doesn't move into the day on Sunday. It hangs out, it sticks around, and that's going to continue a marginal risk right around Kentucky and West Virginia into Indiana and Ohio. And then you follow that trough south, you see that dry line developing, another marginal risk for the same locations. And then southeastern Wyoming, you're back in play once again. The trough doesn't move in the mid and upper levels. The surface front doesn't move. It's just going to be steady and solid rainfall on and off through the weekend with a chance of isolated severe storms over the next couple of days. We're going to continue to follow that threat, of course, from coast to coast, along with all of your top weather stories, which in Columbus, Ohio could mean a couple of days of strong storms and possibly some extremes. About it is you're going into a holiday weekend. You had the big plans for mom, and then you start talking about thunderstorm chances Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's the uncool part.
Yeah, it's going to be a very consistent forecast. Those storm chances are going to last in the same areas for several days in a row, so you might get some severe damage from those storms maybe on Saturday, and then on Sunday when you're trying to clean up, you might have some more storms on the way.
So let's talk about how all of this is going to shape